Okay, confession time. When I first downloaded EA FC Mobile, I thought piece of cake. I mean, I've played my fair share of mobile games, and how different could this one be? I mean, how hard could it be, right? Just a few taps and swipes, and I'd be scoring goals like a pro. Let's just say my first few matches were less Messi-esque and more messique. It was like watching a comedy of errors unfold right in front of my eyes. I'm talking passes to the opponent, shots that went out for a throw-in, the works. It was as if my thumbs had a mind of their own, and that mind was set on sabotaging me. There was this one time I tried to do a fancy skill move, all flicks and spins, and ended up kicking the ball directly into my own face, or at least my player's virtual face. It was like my player had a vendetta against himself. It was brutal. The chat blew up with laughing emojis. I could almost hear the collective laughter of the entire internet. I even got a GG easy from a 9-year-old who probably still believes in the Tooth Fairy. That one stung a bit, not gonna lie, but hey, everyone starts somewhere, right? Even the greatest players had to begin at the bottom. Even Messi probably tripped over his own feet a few times back when he was just a kid with a dream and a bad haircut. It's all part of the journey. The important thing is I didn't give up. I kept pushing, kept practicing, and slowly but surely I started to see improvement. I was determined to conquer this digital pitch, even if it meant enduring a few more virtual bruises along the way. Each failure was a lesson, each mistake a stepping stone towards mastery. I started watching tutorial videos, reading strategy guides, and even asking for tips in the chat, yes, from the same people who were laughing at me earlier. I practiced my skill moves, worked on my passing accuracy, and learned the intricacies of the game mechanics. It was like training for a real sport, but from the comfort of my couch. And then it happened. I scored my first goal. It wasn't a spectacular goal by any means, but it was mine. The feeling of accomplishment was incredible. My in-game avatar celebrated, and I couldn't help but join in. It was a small victory, but it felt like winning the World Cup. The chat, which had once been filled with mocking laughter, now had a few encouraging words. "Nice goal," someone said. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. From that point on, I was hooked. I continued to practice, continued to improve, and slowly but surely I started to see real progress. The game that had once seemed impossible was now a source of joy and satisfaction. And then the day came when I won my first match. It was a hard-fought battle, but I emerged victorious. The feeling of triumph was indescribable. Looking back, those early failures were just the beginning of an incredible journey. They taught me resilience, patience, and the importance of never giving up. So if you're just starting out and feeling frustrated, remember this. Every pro was once a beginner. Keep at it, and you'll get there. After all, the sweetest victories are the ones you work hardest for. EA FC Mobile, where every touch, every fail, and every victory counts. So, after the initial what am I even doing phase, I decided to actually, learn how to play. It was a bit like trying to learn a new language, but instead of words, it was all about formations, tactics, and player stats, tutorials, YouTube videos, even eavesdropping on conversations in online forums. I absorbed it all like a sponge. I found myself diving deep into the rabbit hole of gameplay mechanics, strategies, and tips from seasoned players. Turns out there's a lot more to this game than just mashing buttons and hoping for the best. It's a delicate dance of strategy and skill where every move counts and every decision can make or break your game. Who knew? Formations, tactics, player chemistry. It was like suddenly being enrolled in Football Management 101. I had to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each player, how to position them effectively, and how to exploit the opponent's weaknesses. I'm not going to lie, it was overwhelming at first. The sheer amount of information was daunting, and I often found myself second-guessing every move I made. I spent a good hour trying to figure out the difference between a 4-3-3 and a 4-4-2. And don't even get me started on the offside rule. It felt like I was back in school cramming for an exam on football tactics. But slowly, things started to click. The more I played, the more I understood the nuances of the game. It was like a light bulb going off in my head. I started making smarter passes, timing my tackles better, even scoring the occasional goal that didn't involve me tripping over my own shoelaces. Each small victory felt like a huge accomplishment. I was basically a virtual Pep Guardiola in the making. I began to see the game through the eyes of a manager, planning my moves several steps ahead, or at least that's what I told myself. In reality, I was still making plenty of mistakes, but I was learning from them. Each game was a new lesson, and with each lesson I got a little bit better. I even started watching real football matches with a new perspective, analysing the strategies and formations used by professional teams. It was fascinating to see how the principles I was learning in the game applied to real-life football. I took notes, experimented with different tactics, and slowly but surely I started to see improvement. My gameplay became more fluid, my decisions more confident, and then there were those moments of pure joy, like when I executed a perfect play and scored a goal that felt like it belonged in a highlight reel. Those moments made all the effort worth it. I even started sharing tips and strategies with friends, feeling a sense of pride in my newfound knowledge. It was a journey from being a complete novice to someone who sort of knew what was up. And while I still had a long way to go, I was excited for the challenge. Each game was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become a better player. The journey was just beginning, and I was ready for it. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite part, the player packs, that moment of anticipation as the packs open, the hope for a legendary card, the crushing disappointment of getting your fifth duplicate of the same average player. It's an emotional roller coaster, I tell you. I remember the first time I packed a really good player. It was like winning the lottery, except instead of millions of dollars, I got a virtual midfielder with great passing stats. But hey, a win's a win, right? Of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were plenty of times I poured all my hard-earned in-game currency into packs, only to be showered with a bunch of players I wouldn't even start in a five-a-side game down the park. It's enough to make you question your sanity, your luck, and the very fabric of reality. Armed with my newfound knowledge and a team of mostly decent players, I felt a surge of confidence. It was as if I had unlocked a hidden potential within myself and my team. The strategies I had been studying, the formations I had been tweaking, and the player rotations I'd been experimenting with were all starting to make sense. I was ready to take on the world, or at least the virtual world of EFC Mobile. I was ready to take on the world, or at least the virtual world of EFC Mobile. The journey was not going to be easy, but I was determined. I started climbing the ranks, slowly but surely. Each match was a test of my skills and my ability to adapt to different playstyles. The league table became my obsession, and I watched as my team inched its way up, one victory at a time. I started climbing the ranks, slowly but surely. The initial matches were tough, and I faced opponents who seemed to have an answer for every move I made. But I didn't let that discourage me. I analyzed each game, identified my mistakes, and made the necessary adjustments. Every win was a victory, every loss a lesson learned. The thrill of seeing my team move up in the standings was indescribable. Every win was a victory, every loss a lesson learned. I remember this one season, I started off terribly. It was a rough patch, and I questioned my strategies and decisions. But I knew that giving up was not an option. I had to push through the tough times and find a way to turn things around. I remember this one season, I started off terribly. The losses were piling up and my team was struggling to find its rhythm. I was stuck in the relegation zone, staring down the barrel of demotion. It was not pretty, but then something clicked. I realized that I needed to go back to the basics and focus on the fundamentals. I re-evaluated my tactics, made some crucial changes, and instilled a sense of belief in my players. I was stuck in the relegation zone, staring down the barrel of demotion. It was not pretty. But then something clicked. I went on a winning streak, stringing together victories like nobody's business. The transformation was remarkable. My team started playing with a newfound confidence, and the results were evident on the pitch. I went on a winning streak, stringing together victories like nobody's business. The chat was on fire. My teammates and I were celebrating each win with enthusiasm, and the camaraderie within the team was at an all-time high. The support from the fans and the excitement in the chat added to the momentum we were building. The chat was on fire. Opponents who used to crush me were suddenly on the receiving end of my digital dominance. It was a complete turnaround, and I could see the fear in their gameplay. They were making mistakes, and I was capitalizing on every opportunity. The feeling of outplaying my opponents and seeing their reactions in the chat was immensely satisfying. Opponents who used to crush me were suddenly on the receiving end of my digital dominance. I was unstoppable, a force of nature, Okay, you get the idea. The point is, I climbed my way out of the relegation zone and ended up getting promoted. The journey was filled with ups and downs, but the perseverance paid off. I was unstoppable, a force of nature. Okay, you get the idea. The point is, I climbed my way out of the relegation zone and ended up getting promoted. It was exhilarating, like Rocky Balboa winning the championship, only with less sweating and fewer punches to the face. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming, and it made all the hard work worth it. The point is, I climbed my way out of the relegation zone and ended up getting promoted. The journey was long and arduous, but the taste of victory was sweet. I had proven to myself and to my team that with determination and the right strategy, anything was possible. The promotion was not just a testament to my skills as a manager, but also to the resilience and dedication of my players. It was exhilarating, like Rocky Balboa winning the championship, only with less sweating and fewer punches to the face. The celebration was grand, with confetti and fireworks lighting up the virtual stadium. My team and I basked in the glory of our hard-earned success. It was a moment to cherish, a reminder that no matter how tough the journey, the destination was always worth it. And as I looked at the league table, I knew that this was just the beginning of an even greater adventure.